How does a tax sale work in Illinois? In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about the several different ways you can buy properties at tax sale auction in Illinois. Plus, I'm going to give you an insider way to get properties where you don't have to attend the auction and you don't have to go through the complexity, because as you're going to see in Illinois, buying at tax sale can be complicated because it involves things like redemption periods and special legal notices and timing and things like that. So at the end, I'll show you a way to do that is much simpler. But because you asked about Illinois, let's get into the details of that. First thing to know is that Illinois is a tax lien state, not a tax deed state. What that means is that what you're buying at the auction is a lien against the property, and that lien carries an interest rate of 18%. So that can be a really good rate of return, but as with many things in Illinois, it can get complicated. So the way that you bid it's called a bid down process. What it means is that I bid 18%. Someone else says, well, I'll take 17%. Someone else says, I'll take 16%. It keeps going down until you get to the investor willing to take the least amount of money, and it can go, and sometimes does go, as low as 0%. That's right, I said it, 0%. You say, well, why would anybody want to do that? And then we get into the next part about Illinois tax sales, and that is subsequent taxes and the right to redeem. So what happens in Illinois when you get the tax lien certificate, you're going to get interest when and if someone pays it, or you're eventually going to get the property. But during the time when you hold the tax lien certificate, taxes are still accumulating. So when the next tax bills come up, if the owner doesn't pay them, which he probably won't, then you can pay those taxes and you get to collect 12% interest on that money that you invest. So what some tax lien investors are doing in Illinois is assuming that most people are going to redeem, which is true. Most people are going to save their property from the tax man. So they are going to pay the taxes. They're just going to pay them late. So when you pay the subsequent taxes, you don't have to compete with other bidders where, Fred's bidding, 10%, Lisa's bidding 8%, and so on. Instead, in those subsequent taxes, because you hold the first tax lien, you can pay the next year's taxes and get 12%, which is a great return. Now, if someone ultimately doesn't pay the taxes and enough time goes by, then you're going to become the owner of the property as long as you follow an important process. And that process is called giving out the 22-5 notice. What this notice is a notice that the tax sale has happened to the former owner and other stakeholders, letting them know, and it puts you in a position to later get a deed. If you don't do this properly, meaning you get the timing wrong or you don't do it at all, then you won't be able to get a deed on the property and you'll just have thrown away your money and paid someone else's taxes, which is not a good thing. This notice is sent to the last assessee, meaning the person who was on the tax records. And it's going to be the last owner of the property. It's sent to them, and what it tells them is that the tax sale happened, that the tax lien was sold, and the amount they need to pay to redeem the property. So it's notifying them, and you need to do that within 4 months and 15 days of the tax sale. It's very important, especially in Cook County. They require strict compliance with it. Other counties, they require substantial compliance. You might get a little bit of leeway, but in all counties, you do not want to have to be begging a judge to give you a break from you not doing your job. So you need to make sure that that notice goes out, that it's perfect. And that's where my next piece of advice is going to come. You really need to have an experienced attorney working with you on these tax sales if you're going to be doing them. This is not the kind of thing to go in as a complete do-it-yourselfer. You need an experienced attorney. So the ways you can find them, pretty simple. Start doing some searches on Google for how tax sales work in Cook County. And what you're going to find is you'll see some attorneys will put up articles on how tax sales work and educating would-be investors on tax sales. That's a way that attorneys market their services, and you know that that attorney wants to get clients in the tax sale arena, and they're probably experienced in that arena. That's a good way to get yourself connected with experienced counsel, because you need that in this business, because in the tax sale business, you have lots of issues that come up that need legal help. Sometimes you have people redeeming, other times you have just disputes with former owners, you have disputes with mortgage companies and things like that. So you're going to need an attorney to guide you through this process. Not to discourage you, it can be a very profitable and great business to be in. It's just that one of your team members is a talented and experienced state licensed attorney in Illinois who's going to help you comply with, say, the 22-5 notice. They're going to prepare that notice, make sure it gets served on the appropriate people, and be prepared to defend it if they need to. Now, the redemption periods can be long. And let me explain what a redemption period is and why this matters to you as a tax lien investor. So a redemption period is the time for someone to pay the taxes and keep their property. So let's say you buy a property today. Let's say today, just for simplicity's sake, we're January 1st. Then if it's a residential property, they have 2.5 years to redeem the property, meaning anytime over the next 2.5 years, they can come pay the taxes, pay your interest and other expenses, and then they can get the property back. And most people do redeem. That's why it's attractive to get the subsequent taxes, meaning paying, like say you bought it this year and even at 0 interest rate. When you buy next year's taxes and you get 12% of them, and say that they still don't redeem, they go another half a year and you buy those taxes, then you're going to collect 12% on 1.5 years worth of taxes, which can be substantial and can make up for the fact that on the first year taxes, maybe you don't get anything. So that can really make up for that. So subsequent taxes are a big part of this, but you need to know about them and you need to make sure you stay on top of it and pay those taxes. You don't want another tax lien investor getting in front of you on that. And also a good thing about tax sales in Illinois is that when the owner redeems, they have to redeem all the taxes. They can't just redeem your year and then just keep struggling through the next years. They have to get all of them. So if you invested in the second year's subsequent taxes and even the third year's subsequent taxes, then they have to redeem all of them at once, which is nice because it gives you a nice payout right then and there. And that is what's going to happen with most of these properties. They will be redeemed. Occasionally, you're going to get the deed to the property. And when you get to the deed to the property, that can really be a big payday because you're going to get the deed for essentially the taxes that you paid plus the subsequent taxes. So let's say it's 2.5 years worth of taxes. That can be really amazing because taxes on average are a little less than 2% of the property value per year. So if you got a property, even if you paid 3 years worth of taxes, just to make it simple, that's probably 6% of the property value, and you get the property free and clear of mortgages and most other liens. So that can be really an amazing deal, but that's something that's going to happen occasionally. Whenever you're investing in tax liens, it's not typically a play for the deed, it's typically a play for interest, and occasionally you'll get a bonus of getting a deed. And when it comes to getting the deed, you also have to file in court. You have to file a petition to get the deed, which is why you're going to need your local attorney to help you. They can work you through that as long as they're experienced in tax sales. And when you get that deed, the property is yours just for the little bit of taxes that you paid. Also understand that Cook County is a little bit stricter and a little harder to deal with than the outer counties, which are not Cook County. Those are a little bit easier, although Cook County, of course, being the largest, contains Chicago. That's going to be where the most opportunity is, but you definitely need professional guidance in Cook County, and there's going to be more competition there. That being said, there are a lot more properties too, so it could be a really good opportunity. I think overall, you can have good results in Illinois with tax sales, but I also think for most people, there are simpler ways to do this business. And there's a gentleman I ran into that came up with the best way to invest in tax deed properties that I've seen. And that's essentially getting properties that have already been exposed to sale, but are now, sitting there on government lists because nobody bought them, and they're just waiting to be bought. They have those in Illinois. It's called the Scavenger Sale, which is, I did another video on Scavenger Sale. You can look at my channel because I did a video on it. But this could be a really great way to buy properties because you don't have any competition. You don't have any notices you have to file or figure out. You don't have redemption periods to deal with. Instead, you just get properties. And literally, there are tens of thousands of properties out there that you can choose from. And you really just look through the list and decide the ones you want, check them out. And for the ones you want, get them. Typically, you get them for literally pennies on the dollar. It's really amazing. To learn more about that, you can click on the link down below this video. Down there, it's my interview with Tony, who came up with this whole process. He does it nationwide. Really, it's an amazing process to acquire properties for literally pennies on the dollar without competition, without worrying about notices, without hiring attorneys all over the place, without getting into conflicts. So I really like that business model. I like it better than than what we've been talking about today, which is sort of fighting it out with the hoi polloi to get properties. It's good, you can do it, but I think it's much harder than it needs to be. And I'd rather you be able to focus on the business of real estate, which is getting properties, fixing them up, getting them occupied, getting them resold. And when you're battling out, did you send a notice at the right day or not? That's not going to push you in that direction. So I think that what you should do from here is go click on that video, go watch my 20-minute interview with Tony. It's completely free. It's right here on YouTube, and learn about that way of doing the business. I think is better than duking out at the auction. Although that being said, I duked it out at auctions for many, many years. I discovered there are better ways later, so you may want to duke it out for a while yourself. Also with tax sales, if I can give you one other reason why I think it's not the best option. In tax sales, you don't get to inspect the property. There's no open house. You just buy it, and a lot of times you're buying a little bit of a pig in a poke because you can't see the inside of the property. And if you're buying a tax lien that maybe you're going to get a deed 3 years from now, in a cold weather city like Chicago, the condition of a house can degrade greatly in 2 or 3 years from when you buy the tax lien to when you get the property. So it can be a really difficult environment to work in, and you have to be prepared for very heavy duty rehabs in that. So I think that there are better things to do than the tax lien sale in Illinois. So what you should do next is go check out the interview I did with Tony, and that will show you a great path forward.